think everybody understood it when we talked about critical minerals a year ago. The reality is just that fertilizer is possibly more important than critical mineral because we need to eat every day.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by ATOME CEO, Olivier Mussat. Olivier, very good to speak with you. You've secured $420 million in debt for Villeta. What does this mean for the project and investor returns?
Quite key, actually. It's been talked about quite a while now, the discussion that we're ongoing, and finally, we have signed all of the documents which relates to the financing. You will have seen it's signed with the European Investment Bank, FMO, the Dutch state-owned development finance institution. We have IDB, the Latin American DFI, AFC, the World Bank's private sector angle, as well as the Green Climate Fund. So we went through the grinder, for lack of a better word, of these DFIs. And really, they saw, the quality of our project. They saw the economic case. They saw the bankability of it, and its impact not only on food security and climate. Right. So I think it just shows that we continue to bring in tier one partners, and that we are able to do things which are a lot larger than our current market cap to be able to deliver the project. So they've given us very long-term debt finance at extremely competitive terms. So it really goes in and helps enhance the returns of our shareholders and the equity partners at the asset level, which are being led by Hy24, as we had previously announced. So leverage into a project, increases equity returns. Right? As simple as that.
Villeta will make fertilizer without fossil fuels. How does that give ATOME an edge in the market?
So it's really, about being here at the right place at the right time. Right. So we have long-term, low-cost power supply. Like the input is fixed, is very low cost, which allows us to basically deliver fertilizer at a cost cheaper than importing it from Russia or the Middle East. Right. So bang on, it is already a lowest cost producer. The other side is obviously from an offtake point of view. We've announced last year Yara, which is one of the largest fertilizer company in the world, providing us with a long-term offtake for 100% of our production, giving us basically a mechanism that allows to de-risk the project on the downside cases and has an upside as well. The other part is, yes, we are competing today, gray on green. So we will be producing low-cost fertilizer without the need for hydrocarbons. But we are able to compete with hydrocarbon fertilizer production and basically be bankable. And what we have is basically the green upside, which for some in the fertilizer sector may have seen. The carbon border mechanisms are now in full force in Europe. And despite the rising price of fertilizer, they remain in full force in Europe. So we have basically this super upside, which will come from the fact that it is going to be the, not only the lowest fertilizer in the region, but definitely the lowest cost green fertilizer in the region, which then and the world, because Yara will be able to sell it globally, and we have the right partners to deliver it again.
Olivier, you mentioned rising fertilizer prices, and you also mentioned that this project could replace imports from Russia or the Middle East. What does the current conflict in the Middle East mean for the fertilizer sector?
So I think where people were overly comfortable for the past few years on the supply of basically any chemicals, but especially fertilizer, because a large part of fertilizer, nearly 30%, come from Russia and its neighbors. Today, nearly 50% of the other 100% comes through the Strait of Hormuz. And so we have a fertilizer world which today is completely rocked, and it's really showing its weakness. So the price of fertilizer went up by 50%, 50, right, in the span of 3 weeks. And a number of these facilities have been attacked. And it's really showing that we have a supply chain which is actually extremely vulnerable, and that we are our thesis about being in the heart of the market, away from that instability, right close to our clients, close to the largest customers. And yet, because the price of fertilizer is decided, like oil and gas, on a global scale, we keep also obviously the opportunity to have the upside, because when the price of fertilizer goes up, for us in Europe or the Middle East, it goes up also in Latin America. So when you have a fixed low cost of power, fixed offtake, and you can basically be there to obviously underpin food security, underpin fertilizer supply, you can still have access to the commodity upside. So sometimes, I think everybody understood it when we talked about critical minerals a year ago. The reality is just that fertilizer is possibly more important than critical mineral because we need to eat every day.
Villeta, a world first project, and you plan to replicate the model. Take us through the next steps as you move forward.
Oh, absolutely, right. I think, and our investors and shareholders who came in since day one, and who believed in us, and we definitely thank them. They came in because it's not just one project, right? This one project obviously will have a very high returns and NPVs attached to it. The reality is we have done world's first, right? We have done that type of offtake that we've put together is the first type of offtake we've put together. That type of EPC arrangement with Casale from a construction point of view, again, first time. So we went about de-risking and creating a formula and having building a team that has basically the right ways to deliver these projects, that can also exit these projects. And so obviously we've been looking in Paraguay, we've been looking in other countries in the region, even outside of a region, because we've seen that we have basically a 4-year head start on everybody. So clearly that side of a replication is going there. We've also mentioned that we created another division called ATOME Power, which will also be able to take advantage of some of the synergies that we have and that we have seen, where clearly, bringing lower cost renewable power, solar plus battery and so on, actually has complementarity, and will be quite good to obviously lower the cost of supply for our future projects, but also be an independent stream of cash flow, which will come a little faster because clearly, it would have taken us nearly 4 years to get to that point when it comes to starting the building of a fertilizer plant. You can do that in half of the time when you look at the power sector. But the other point, of course, is on replicability. Now it will be a lot quicker for us to go into project 2 and project 3. So clearly we are ahead of the curve, and we can definitely intend to remain ahead of the curve. But as I mentioned, right, it's all about proving that you can deliver and you have a team to do it. And what was closed last week on the debt side, is really proof in the pudding. And this is why it made so much noise in Latin America, right? This is the largest scale hydrogen-linked chemical project that has been financed in the region. So we are very proud of that. The work isn't finished. Over the next few weeks, we'll continue to be busy. But yeah, I think it's very great to have that recognition from some of the world's largest development finance institutions.
Well, congratulations on that milestone. I hope you'll keep us updated on your progress.
I absolutely intend to. Thank you very much, Tiffin.
Thank you. That's Olivier Mussat, the CEO of ATOME.